Hey, it's BT with Tales from a Gemini. My guest today is Chloe Peterson. Chloe Peterson raced in the Royal Enfield Build Train Race Program, and she talks about how not getting in affected her to finally getting in to racing, how she got into racing, and how she's an inspiration to young girls everywhere. You're going to love this podcast. She's fun. She's emotional. I think you'll love it. Enjoy, Chloe Peterson. Oh, yeah. This is the podcast people have been talking about. I may have met my match on this one, Wyatt. I may have met my match on this. 1, 2, 3. Hey, it's BT with Tales from a Gemini. My guest here, I gotta give her credit because, I know how I come off to people. So I try to be, not so, I don't know, it's intimidating, I don't know. But I remember I was at a track day, and I can't discuss where it was because I might get her in trouble, but we were at a track day. And so I always get there really early, and she had parked right next to me, and I was, sleeping in the front seat, and I popped up kind of like Michael Myers. And I saw her come, I go, oh man, she's gonna be at a track day, cool. And then we got to talk and find out she's part of the Build Train Race program that Royal Enfield and my friend Bree Poland, they had, and which I think is incredible. Anyway, she got second place, got runner-up this year in,
third.
You got third?
In the championship, second at Barber.
Okay, I thought you got second in the championship. Okay. But I remember watching you race, and I was like, oh my God, because I met you and everything was really cool and everything. And then I saw you at last race and you were making moves. I was like, oh, my girl's got a little aggressiveness. Aggressiveness? Is that a word? Anyway, so my guest today is Chloe Peterson. How are you, Chloe?
I am great. I'm excited for this to be my first podcast.
Yes, I'm your first. I'm your first.
Yes, you are.
Now, can we discuss at the track we met? Because at the time you were like, shh, and you grabbed me like, she grabbed me like this. She goes, don't tell him I'm not supposed to be here. I said, all right. Remember that? You remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So, and after that, we've been like this. And I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Like we would compare, like, how'd your session go? She goes, okay, how was yours? I said, okay. And then it went through the course of a day and we became like this. And actually I was like, oh, when I left, I was like, oh, I think you were going out in your last session and I had already packed up and was ready to go. And I was like, okay, take it easy. And I followed you ever since. And I've been a big fan. So first of all, how did this all come about? The Build Train Race program for you, and what's your background? Like I tried to do some background research on you, found nothing.
Ooh, that's because I'm like secret international super spy. Well, I guess we'll just start with the Build Train Race. So COVID hit, 2020. Things got weird. I was working for a museum in the Chicagoland area, and they're very conscientious about the public being there. Like they made it like, was it ground zero basically of like March 13th, maybe, if that was a Friday of 2020. And they were like, oh, hey, things are getting weird. We're going to shut down the museum for 2 weeks. And I'm like, okay, cool. And so I took my big desktop computer home, even though my boss was like, don't worry about it. You could just leave it here. And I'm like, nah, I think this is going to be something longer. Yeah. So fast forward to, I think, April, we're still not at work. They keep pushing the date back of when we're going to be there. And so my boyfriend at the time, now fiance, we're just like, let's go street ride with some friends. Cause I don't know if he was laid off work too, or what was going on, but one of the guys that we started riding with, he had a Royal Enfield, and he's such a cool character, Flying Ryan. Uh-huh. And I think he's got like 5 Royal Enfields. But like I pulled up, I'm like, what is this bike? Like, what is this, an old bike? Is this carbureted? He's like, no, this is new, fuel injected. And I was just like, hold up, this is like new old. I like this. And so I told him a little bit about like how I was into track days. I started doing track days in like 2015, and did some super camp, like flat track stuff with Danny Walker, and really enjoyed that. And he's like, oh, well, Royal Enfield has this Build Train Race program, but they're doing flat track. You should see if you could apply to that in fall. And I was like, wait, what? Like they're doing a program for women, and like you're building the bike, and there's just like it didn't really make sense that somebody was actually putting the effort in to getting more women into racing. And it was just like, all right, whatever. I'll see what happens when the time fall rolls around. But by the time fall rolled around, they brought out like a road race program. I'm like, hold up, like this is my jam. And so I applied, put so much effort into applying. Like it was like 2 hours of me just recording videos and like sending it to them. And I actually didn't get in the first year. And I was salty.
Real? Like, how salty? Like, did you cry?
Oh, hell yeah. I cry about everything.
You don't seem like a crier, though. You really don't. You don't seem like a crier.
Oh, I cry when I'm happy, when I'm mad, when I'm sad. Like, there's tears all the time. Like, I mean, if you saw any of my podium stuff this year, I'd say, I think of the 5 that I made it onto the podium because I crashed out at Road America.
Yeah.
I think I cried at like 3 of them.
But that's different, though. I mean, when you're happy, yeah, that's different, though. It's like, I'm a man, but I think I cry when I lost in wrestling. So that's different. That's sports-wise.
Yeah. Well, of course I cried because I was like, you know, you're just like, so like, you're like, I really want this, manifest. And then it's just like, damn. Like, so, and I didn't know why. It was like, you wanted to know why. And so fast forward to like summer of 2021, I'm at like the Sport Bike Track Time, like ladies first track day that they have every year. Yeah. And this year that year was at Groton. And all the Royal Enfield girls were there. And I'm like, man, talk about putting salt in the wound, like, and so like, I'm just like over here on my little RC 390. I'm like, man, I just, like, why aren't I cool enough to be on their team? And so, yeah, I was like, wait, none of these girls know anything. I was like, oh, is this like a Cinderella story? Like, okay, they have like all these girls who never really built a bike, but they've ridden before, but they've never been on a track. So I was like, that's an interesting take on things. Mm-hmm. And, but I was in the bathroom at the end of the day and Jen Mukey was there. She was a photographer for Royal Enfield that day. And I'm washing my hands at the sink and I'm giving her a hard time as I'm like, well, what the hell? Like Royal Enfield's not giving you a scooter to get around the track to take pictures. You're hoofing it everywhere. Like, what the hell, man? Mm-hmm. It's like, make sure you're the next day or the next track you're at, they give you something to scoot around on. And then she's like, you're Chloe Peterson, right? And I'm like, she in trouble?
Smart. Like, yeah. Smart.
Yeah. Like, and I was like, yeah, that's me. She's like, well, I remember you from your application video last, like in fall. And she's like, we really liked you, but you had too much experience. And I'm like, oh, I get it now. And she's like, for the next season, we want to invite girls to have more experience. Please apply again. And so I ran out the bathroom kind of like teary-eyed, like, oh my God, they want me to apply again. I get in the truck and then Jeremy, like my fiance, he's like, what are you crying about now? Like, and I was like, and then he's like, well, I guess you got to apply. And then so I thought about it and just wasn't too sure if I wanted to apply again, but he's like, you just got to do it. He's like, you never know. You could always tell them no. Right. And you can see where it goes. So he's like, if anything, that's going to be a great learning experience and networking thing for you. So, and I applied again and I got in and it's still, I'm still waiting for Ashton Kutcher to come out and be like, gotcha, you're done. But he's over now.
Now, what made you want it though? What made you real what about it made you really wanted to do it though?
So my big thing was wanting to do the build portion of it. Mm-hmm. Because like, I mean, I've been on the track. I know what to do on the track. I've raced before, cause I race with Arma typically, like it's a vintage series, but yeah, I've got a modern bike. It's weird like that. And, so I've never had the financial capabilities to take like a brand new bike from like street version and change it over to race version. Cause it's a lot of money, buy a brand new bike and then commit to buying all the parts for it. And I always like to push myself into uncomfortable situations so you grow more. And I knew I needed more practice with the mechanical side of things, because I did as much as I could with like changing out parts or like looking on YouTube to like how to do things. Because it's like when I started riding like fresh out of college, I didn't have a lot of money. And so I had like a shitty Gixxer 750 that had gone through like 7 owners.
What year? What year?
2003.
I had a 2000 Gixxer 750, and let me tell you something. I love that bike, but somebody it was passed down, and somebody messed with the wiring. But when it was working, that Gixxer 750, I put that against any bike on the road when it was working.
Well, yeah, I had wiring issues with mine too. But you know what was really good about that generation is it fit a purse, flip flops, a water bottle, and like whatever other, like a hoodie in the tail section.
Damn, you put a lot in the tail section.
Oh, you gotta kind of Tetris it in there, but like, dude, you can go anywhere.
I guess so. I never put that much. I just had like little stuff, like maybe a jacket at the most. I never put like all that shit in there.
Yeah, it was sad when I went to like I got 2 CBR 600Rs after that, and there was no like it was a nice undertail exhaust, so there's like you could put anything there. So I was like, okay, backpack everywhere. Just But yeah, so it was like I never really had the money to do the stuff for the bike. So I was trying to learn as much as I could mechanically and it's like I knew I had the ability to learn. And my dad has an auto body shop, so he has all the tools. So I would just go over there and work on my stuff. And it's like that's who cares about money? The more knowledge you have, I think, is like more of a wealth to me than anything.
Yes, so knowledge is key. I mean, knowledge and learning. But like you said, man, it's about learning and making yourself a little bit uncomfortable because you become more focused that way. Now, were you always like that? Like growing up as a kid and just looking at your pictures on Instagram, correct me if I'm wrong. I always tell my guests, hey man, call me on my bullshit if I'm talking bullshit, but correct me if I'm wrong, but you seem like you were a daddy's girl. Am I correct in that? Or were you? I don't know. You seem like you were. I mean, from everything I've noticed, it just seems like you and your dad are really tight. And I love that. I love the picture of you and your dad and your fiance together, or just you and your dad. You had the bike reveal. And I love how he was always there. I think there's nothing more beautiful than when a parent is involved with their kid, but I love it when a dad is involved with his daughter. I love that. So were you always a daddy's girl?
I'd say it was pretty 50-50. My mom was mostly a stay-at-home mom when I was a kid. So I spent a lot of time with her, but when she needed her own time and like my dad would be restoring his classic cars for like his hobby, she'd ship me over to the shop and like he'd be like restoring his like Cadillac and I'd just be sitting there drawing. I was always the artsy kid, so they would always just set me up with some paint and some markers and I'd just be drawing. And sometimes we'd like drawing what he's doing, or like I'll see a sign that he collects like vintage signage. So like I would like draw what I see on the sign, because I'm like to this day I'm obsessed with like signage and hand painted lettering. And so I was always just kind of like drawing words and whatever I could do. But I was always with him. I grew up like he would drag race when I was like maybe, it was like when I was around 10. He probably did that for a couple years. But then he got sick of that and converted his Camaro that he had for drag racing over to road course. So I kind of got exposed to all that stuff when I was young, or I was always at a car show with him.
Did you enjoy that? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah. Yeah. It was really cool being around that stuff. And both my parents are really into antiques and stuff like that. So the exposure to that was really good as a kid. And I still love that stuff. And I love being with my parents. They're the best.
Now, are you the only child?
No, I have a younger sister. She's 6 years younger than me.
Okay. Now, growing up, were you like a tom girl, like a tomboy, or I mean, I know you're artsy. So I look at that picture of you on Instagram and the high school picture of you, and I love that for some reason. And I was like, just from that picture, I saw you as somebody who was like, it had a small group of friends, but that was your little group. And so how was it for you in high school? Like, did you have a big group where you were the popular girl? Because I saw you as somebody, like I said, small group, but you were like the jokester of the group.
So, funny enough, like I went to public school my entire life, and
Oh, so
then
you're tough. Oh my gosh.
oh
Public
yeah,
school. Oh gosh.
yeah, yeah, public school was kind of tough by me, and public high school by me was going to be even like tougher, like kid wise,
Yeah.
and but not like academic wise. And I'm a huge nerd,
I could
and
tell. I was gonna say that. But I didn't want to hurt your feelings. I was gonna say I bet you were a nerd, but not in a bad way, nerd. But just kind of nerd, like I said, you do your drawing and you're kind of with yourself and having a couple of friends, whatever, and you have the last, but you're not with the so-called popular group. You know what I mean?
yeah. So from going from public school to a private high school, like a Catholic school that was like college prep, all like the little high school or the little elementary school Catholic kids already knew each other when I came together, and it took me till I was in soccer my freshman year. How do you turn that off? Yeah, it took to like my like soccer to start becoming friends with people because everybody already knew each other, and so I was in like the advanced art program in my high school, and I tested out with my portfolio I had from like elementary school. So I was just that God, dog, blah, stop texting. uh, so I tested.
What happened? Who's texting you? Who's texting you? Is it
My best friend Christy.
Is it a creeper? I mean, if you want me to, I'll take care of it.
No.
Okay.
She's my best friend. We're celebrating right now.
What are you celebrating?
A good payout and some freelance money.
Oh, that's always good to celebrate. Anytime you get money like that. Are you going to spread the wealth? I mean, you never know. Come on down to Indianapolis. We'll have a party. We'll spend your money. We'll have a good time.
I was thinking about playing Sugar Mama and getting some.
You're going to be my sugar mama?
Sugar Mama. I love to treat my fiance. I always tell him I'd love to make a ton of money and I just have him stay home and like work on my motorcycles.
I think that is great. I love how when I see those pictures, I go, yeah, they're made for each other. Just the fact that you guys look like you're having fun and you're goofy together. He has that weird looking suit and you sat on his lap and I go, yeah, they're made for each other. And I think it's beautiful. Like everything you're telling me now, I picture that because when I first met you, I saw that in you. It's weird. You know what I mean? It's like from the brief conversations we had, it was like we boom. And I could just tell all that. You know what I mean? We had a good time talking, but I could tell you were like I don't know. It's just everything that you're telling me now, it fits, if that makes any sense.
Sure. Yeah. Well, funny thing with like you're like, oh, your fiance and you're made for each other. Well, we better be because I made like, so nerd again. I made an ultimate man criteria list, which is an Excel spreadsheet that has a bunch of like it's an algorithm for like the perfect man for me that's like 7 years in the making. And anytime I break up with somebody, like I make sure I close the loophole so they don't score the certain percentage for me to date them. And he scored 101%. So
wow. Okay. So what were the criteria? What were the criteria?
I mean, like there was extra credit on there, and so extra credit, which is now more of a prerequisite, is like must be able to ride motorcycles or be willing to learn, and then ski or snowboard. Those were like the extra credit, but like motorcycles are a prerequisite now.
Okay.
I mean, and then so I only put stuff on there that was like I accept only myself or better. So, and I'm being pretty lenient. Like for Midwestern standards, I think I'm like a minimum, like a solid, sometimes 7 day. And so it's like, okay, so you want like a 7 or better for like a guy, and like fitness level, like around me or better or whatever, but not too fitnessy. Like he's got to have a little bit of chunk on him.
A little bit of chunk on him. A little bit of chunk on him. I love that because if it was reversed, well, as a man, I have to say thick, and that way it sounds good. But I love how you said, "Hey, I'm Midwestern corn-fed," and when you said that, I lost it. When you text me, "I'm Midwestern corn-fed," and I go, "Bingo!" I loved how you said. So we say thick, but you gotta have like a man with a little chunk on him, a little bloop bloop, a little bloop bloop.
Yeah, I don't want it to look like you spend 3 hours at the gym or more every day, unless I mean that's your job. But I just don't like super fit. It's just like it's too much.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So you like that. So you like, like you said, it's about a 7. And what else do you like? What else?
Um, like I mean, my height and taller is better. I mean, so like my dad's called like whoever I've dated like a sample platter. I've tried a lot of different options out there, and so I know what works. And
whoa. What kind of different options did you try? It sounds like a poo-poo platter at an Asian restaurant. So what kind of different options did you try?
Short guys, tall guys. I used to be quite the chubby chaser back in the day.
Well, you were a chubby chaser? Yeah. You were a chubby chaser.
Yeah, I mean, big guys are fun and they make you laugh. And usually, okay, so past experience, super hot guys typically think they're God's gift to Earth in person and in bed, whatever. But usually, big guys are just like they put in a little bit more effort and they treat you better. And they make you laugh, you close your eyes and you don't see them.
Man, if a dude was saying this, we will get raked over the coals. So I'm glad you're saying, but you know what? It's true in the reverse. I mean, I say this all the time. I say, you know what? I said, yeah, if I had to pick, I love women if I had to pick, I love fitnessy women. I think soccer players have great body. Soccer players, I like fitness women and everything. But the hotter they are, it's like they lose personality. And, the women who are just a little bit heavier, a little thicker, whatever, they are fun. They make me laugh. They're, like you said, and it's weird because, I'm glad you said it first, so anybody gets mad at me. You said it first, is that if you close your eyes, and, it's like, yeah, they're great. I mean, they really are. You're in bed, that after sex talk where you're just, the pillow talk, their pillow talk game is on point. It's a fun time. The big ones are fun.
Yeah, I think everybody should try everything before they knock it and brush that broccoli to the side.
Yeah, I knew you were waiting on that one. You were waiting on that. We were texting last night and we said something. I said, yeah, just push that shit to the side like broccoli. And apparently you liked that because I could tell you were waiting on that like a boxer. And when I left my thing, bam. You saw the opening and you came through with it. I love it. So, okay, Chip, you tried chubby chasers. And what else did you try? What else did you try that you said you didn't? Okay, short guys, chubby guys. What else?
Yeah, that's about it. Just a variety. But yeah, I mean, so looks were only like a small portion of it. Personality was like a bigger portion of it. So you gotta respect your parents. They gotta respect you. And for me, it's like the way a guy treats his mother, he's not gonna treat you any better. So you gotta make sure he is good to his mom. And that's important to me. So just a major respect thing in general. And then since I'm very creative, I've dated some other guys who aren't creative and they didn't really get it. I mean, they respected it, but they didn't really understand it.
Yes.
Jeremy's very creative in and of itself. He's a pipe fitter and welder by trade. So he does some really cool metal art, and his fabrication skills for motorcycle stuff is great. So it's we can bounce ideas off each other and collaborate on that. Or we painted a mural before in the garage together. So it's nice being with somebody who's creative and, but all kinds of stuff on there.
Now what exactly, I know you're an artist, but what kind of art do you do? I mean, I never got that.
Yeah, I'm a graphic designer by trade. So when I worked at the museum in my current job, I'm an environmental graphic designer, and I kind of touch on branding and other random projects, but environmental graphic design, at the museum, I designed exhibits where you'd walk through. So it was trying to make the mundane or math, science, something visually cool and interesting to want to absorb. I do a lot of retail graphics right now for banks and credit unions. So it's trying to make it look fun and interesting to get a younger clientele to come in. I know the big push is to get millennials to join whatever bank or credit union. And so it's just trying to make it more inviting for them. And so like you think of it like an old stodgy bank where it's just like, ugh.
Yeah, well, but that's the beauty of it. I always say young people are great. I mean, some of their ideas are like, what are you going with this? But for the most part, they have that new energy that you just can't mess with, and that you have to respect and go, okay, let's give it a try. And that's the key to it. I love talking to young people because they make me like they call it old thinking. I'm like, all right, whatever, and you go with them, and no, yeah, they do, and then you go, okay, and you try to like, you know, it's kind of like you said, you like chubby chasers, like, okay, I feel a little chubby right now, so you know, sometimes you gotta brush it to the side like broccoli, and you got to like listen what they say. You go, okay. And I think that's beautiful because my roommate's son, they go up to Chicago and they go to the museums, and he comes back and he loves it. He just got back from, I think the one with the astronauts or whatever that shows so he loves it. So I think it's awesome what you do because it's a creative mindset. It's like, do you take from that field what you do? Do you put that into motorcycling?
Oh yeah. Like for my build train race bike, I designed that entire paint scheme. I really wanted something that was like gold, and I really love fuchsia. I'm not a girly girl, but I've really been embracing like pinks and purples lately. And I was like, how do I make gold and like fuchsia and pink look classy but still feminine? And I really like being around classic cars. I really like the like you think like Mexican lowrider or like a gasser with like the lace finish on it.
Yes. The Impalas, the lowrider Impalas.
Yeah. It was like, I want something bright, colorful, loud, something that photographs well and creates good contrast. Cause it's like, okay, you don't get very many times to have a custom motorcycle. So it's like time to play up the color, the glam, whatever. And so I really made the gold and fuchsia kind of my brand colors, but I designed like my own like suit, the Venom base layers, like any little thing that went with it, like even my thank you cards to like sponsors at the end of the year, which I still have to finish sending those out, sorry guys. And like, yeah, it's just like little bits to make it more to you. Like before the season, before I thought I was actually going to do good, went for the look pro, go slow look. I mean, you got to look really good if you're going to be in a professional atmosphere.
Deion Sanders said it best: if you look good, you play good. And that's the truth. I mean, that bike, honestly, the colors were great. And I loved your leathers. Everything fit wonderful. I mean, they really did. So I love that. And I felt that from the beginning, like you said, I felt like you were looking forward to the build part, and then when it came to the race part, you were like, huh. But I felt that as the season went on, you really embraced the racing part.
Yes. Yeah, I know the racing part was still like, yes, very good and important. But yeah, I really grasped onto the mechanical side of stuff because the more I know about how my motorcycle works, the better I can ride it. Especially like overcoming issues. Like let's say something happens and you hear a weird noise and you're like, okay, well that doesn't sound detrimental, keep riding. Or like, let's say your shift linkage falls off and it's like, okay, could I finish this practice session in third gear and then figure it out once I get off the track? And like, I know the next season, whatever happens for next season, like I want to know exactly what's going on with my suspension. I want to be able to go out on the track, feel the feedback the bike's giving to me, and be able to come off and be like, okay, well, I was getting chattering, getting on the gas coming out of turn 3. Let's bump up the preload here or do this or do that. Like I want to become the suspension guru. That's my goal. And but no. Yeah, the race. Yeah.
I love what you did. I love what you did. I love how you embraced that, because when you just said whatever your gear linkage, whatever, you lost me because I have no idea what that is. I mean, I'm strictly a rider kind of. I don't know if you ever watched Days of Thunder with Tom Cruise, but when Robert Duvall was trying to tell him all this stuff, he goes, "Man, I just drive the race car. That's all." And that's the kind of guy I am. Like, I don't know a lot of, like, I'm not good mechanical. I just know, like, oh, get on it, first gear, second gear, third gear, whatever, and that's all I know. Like, that's why, and I think this series, and it's underrated. What Moto America has done, it's awesome because they've taken, and I'm a big MotoGP fan, a big World Superbike fan. And I love that. I think it's great. But what Moto America has done is they've almost taken people who wouldn't normally have raced and gave them a place in a racing atmosphere, which I think is so almost everybody from every walk of life can enjoy the races. You got your racer with the superbike class, super sport class. You got for the young kids, you got the little mini GP, which I think is great. And then you got you guys with the Build Train Race, which I think is great. You bring women in, have an all women race series, and then they have the bagger series. So with you guys, what I think is great, and it's understated, but Royal Enfield, and they're the oldest motorcycle production in the world, and so they're classic anyway. And what they're doing, I think, is understated for the times that we're in now. How I just love how women now are in a better position, I think, than they've ever been. And now, you know what I mean? They're showing you can be feminine, but be in a racing atmosphere. And it's showing little girls, no matter how minute it may seem, but there's going to be some little girl looking up to you going, yeah, I raced because Chloe Peterson, but I saw her race. And I think, and I think anything that takes away from that shit on TV, like the Bachelorette or Bachelor, I hate shit like that. And the Kardashians, if I never see a Housewives of the Who Gives a Shit, it'd be too soon. And so I love what they're doing. So do you realize that you kind of could be a role model for the kids?
I mean, yes. And I really like that. And I know I suffer from like imposter syndrome a little bit, and not going to get emotional about it.
Don't cry. Please don't cry. Please don't cry. Because if you start crying and then they're going to ask why, and then you'll have to contact the local police department and I might get taken away. You might Karen me on a podcast. So I don't want that to happen. It
was like at the beginning of the season, I kind of like felt like, okay, like, why am I here? Like, do I deserve this? Stuff like that. And like a couple people told me, when that little girl comes up to you and says, wow, it was so cool to watch you race, or can I get your autograph? And you're just like, what? Like me? Like, are you sure? And just and it makes you feel like really good to be there. And it just inspiring one person to get out there and ride would be awesome. Because I started really late in life. Riding motorcycles. I think I learned when I was 20, and then didn't get on the track until I was like 24. So,
but it didn't matter. Like they say in life, man, I mean, to me personally, as long as you're still alive, you're never too late to go for it. Like, how did you come about like motorcycle? How did motorcycle come about in your life? Like, what was the overall goal in the beginning? Like when you were growing up, what was the overall goal for Chloe? Did you just want to get out of high school? Did you want to get a scholarship in soccer? I mean, what was your overall goal?
Oh, well, so I was always that kid that just wanted to do really good in school. Like I like have undiagnosed high functioning anxiety. Like I was in kindergarten crying about what am I going to do for the rest of my life.
In kindergarten?
Yeah.
Oh my God. You were one of those kinds?
Yeah. It was just like, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? Just existential crisis. But like, I just want to do good in school because, like that's a good foundation of just like moving on. And so, I was always goody two shoes, getting straight A's. I graduated valedictorian of my college and junior high, but not high school. That was too hard. It was just like, okay, just do really good. And then whatever pathway will open to whatever you want. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I played high school soccer and that was fun until I broke my finger when I was a junior. And then I just focused more on the art and I talked to my parents later on because I was like, why didn't you put me in traveling soccer or do this or that? And they're like, well, we wanted our own life too. Because some of those traveling parents are just like nuts. Like that's their identity is traveling to different tournaments. And I get it now. Like I used to be big mad at my parents, but now it's just like, oh, I get it. I don't want kids. And then it's because it's like, I want to focus on myself, but I'm glad they focused on themselves. And they're like, man, we knew you weren't going to be getting a scholarship anyways.
They basically said, I'm not getting up early to go watch you play because you ain't going to make it anyway. So why should we go?
Yeah, they were like, what are the odds? And I was like, all right, I am not mad. I totally get it. Totally get it. But yeah, like, motorcycles really weren't in my life until like way, way late. Like
Like, how did it happen?
I was like an only child for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I had to come up with my own ways to entertain myself. And so a lot of it was like TV or doing art or running around outside. But I remember this provocative thing that happened when I was about 5. There was motorcycle racing on TV. I was just flipping through, and there was a helmet cam view, and it was just like on a road course. They were leaning side to side. And I'm like, what is this? What is this? So I grabbed like a couch cushion off the couch and like straddled it like it was a motorcycle and like leaned side to side. And like from that point, I was like, I don't know what this is, but I like it. And like all the little boys in my neighborhood had dirt bikes. And I'd be like, Dad, that. I want that. Give me that. And he's like, you're like, he didn't really say you're a girl, like focus on other things, or I don't want you to get hurt.
Yeah.
But like it wasn't until like I was like 15, he had gotten some dirt bike from his friend who had a junkyard. It was like a police tow. So it was just like the locks were all punched out of it, didn't have a kill switch. And so he tried to teach me on that. That teaching lasted like 20 minutes. And so I wasn't really good at the clutch. So he just kind of like gave up. And then in college, I was like, obsessed with sport bikes, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna find me a man that knows how to ride a bike, knows how to wrench, and because I go into any relationship with like goals, like okay, if it doesn't last forever, I'm gonna at least learn stuff.
Oh, that is great. That is awesome. Yeah, like we broke up, but you know what? I know how to tie a knot, or I know how to I know how to change oil.
Yeah. So I started dating this guy who was a complete asshole. We dated for like 4 years, but like I learned how to ride on his CBR 1000RR, and then he convinced me to buy this Gixxer 750, which was that hot mess, but I really wanted the CBR. He's like, you outgrow that, and I'm like, now I look back, I'm like, oh my god, that was terrible.
Why was he an asshole?
He was emotionally manipulative, kept me on a short leash because I think he knew I was going to outgrow him. And I mean, he was like 6 years older than me.
And, oh my God.
Still lived with his parents. And it's like, dude, you're 30 years old, still living with your mom and dad. Like,
but why'd you go out with him though? I mean, 4 years is a long time to go. He's an asshole. So did it take you letting on to realize he was manipulative?
I mean, everybody kind of told me from like the beginning, like they didn't really like him. My parents didn't really like him. And, so, I mean, I was having fun. I was young in my 20s, and like we'd go ride motorcycles and, hey, everybody.
No, you have to realize like there's a sidewalk here and they can see us. And there's a little kid and they can hear us on the outside. That's why it's the greatest podcast ever, because they can hear us on the outside. You're being broadcast on the streets here of Indianapolis. And so when people walk by, they can see me talking to you. And that's why I wave and they wave back. So yeah, but I'm listening. So yeah. So he was an asshole, manipulative, stayed with his parents, was a loser. Everybody was telling you no, but you say, you know what? I'm staying with this guy.
Everything happens for a reason. And I think the timeline of like how the dominoes fall is supposed to happen for a reason. I don't regret dating him, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have had like these other things happen in my life. So thank you. I'm glad I moved. But yeah, I got what I needed, and like one day, I'm done. And he would always like, he wouldn't help me get my bike to like a completion point. I think he knew once the bike was going to be done, I was going to be done. And I was just like, I gave up, and I was like, I'm out. But so I learned how to ride. And then like the following week, I actually went up to sport bike track time at like my local Audubon track. Like my aunt's friend, she's like, hey, you should come check out these track days. And I was like, wait, there is a place where I can legally go fast and not get a speeding ticket, and everybody's going the same direction. There's no texting and driving. Nobody's drunk. And she's like, yeah. And I was like, yes, tell me more. So like I rolled up there. She was supposed to come with me that day because her husband was a coach, and she ended up not showing up. So I came up there by myself and just kind of rolled into like the paddock area. Didn't know anybody. It's like the end of September. It's 90 degrees sunny. This white chocolate is melting. and just like I and I was like, I don't know what this is, but I love it. So I roll up there with like an icon jacket,
Yes.
mohawk, like so like squid like, but like with all the gear all the time.
Uh-huh.
And I was still not quite confident with my jigsaw at the time because like you had two starts on it and then like the battery wouldn't charge anymore.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You had to be really strategic of where you park so you could bump start it, like park uphill. Uh, yeah, really good at that. And
Yes.
yeah, and I pulled up there and I was going to park and my body was like, let's go straight. But then my mind was like, let's go to the right. And I almost dumped it in front of everybody. And like, I think it was Richard Harris, the guy who owns Sport by Track Time. Like, I was like, hey, where do I park? And I'm like mid falling over. And he's like, oh no. And he like runs out to like catch me. And I'm just like at the point of like no return, about to dump this bike. And they're like, just like, oh yeah, go park over there. And so I'm just walking around and everybody was super nice. And I was like, I don't know what this is, but I was like, somebody tell me about what gear to buy. And I literally went home after that day and bought all the gear. And my first track day was like Memorial Day that following year in 2015.
Isn't it the greatest how when you find what you like, it's like you said, when you're going through the TV and you go, what is this? Yes,
Yep.
this is it. There's in it that feeling in your heart where you just know it. It's almost like when you ask girls like, how did you know he was the right one? They go, you just know. And so like like the bike I have, I was looking for a new kind of bike after my Gixxer, and I was looking for different bikes. Like, I was looking at this and maybe this, and when I saw it, I go, my heart literally had that feeling when I used to look at women that same way, like, that's the one. And that's what I had. And that's why I got the bike. So I love how you found, like, did you feel like immediately, did you feel when you did your track day, did you feel like, okay, this is the community I want to be in from here on out until the foreseeable future?
Yes. Yeah. And it was like, that's like going to the track and racing is like a therapy to me. Like I know I said earlier, like super high function anxiety. My brain thinks a million miles a minute. But when I'm out on the track and like it gets me time to focus on one thing, and basically it's like don't die. And
yes.
Riding on the edge, it calms me. Like the extreme focus that you have to have makes me feel alive, and it puts me in a trance. Like repeating lap after lap with a continual lens of improvement is just like, it's just I feel so good. My body hates me, but the mind is just like yes.
I that's why I wanted so bad for us to be in the same group together. For some reason, I really wanted to be like, I wanted to, not race, but I wanted to either follow you, which sounds weird, but I wanted to follow you or whatever, see if our times, how our times would be. Because it was like when I was coming in, you were going out and we never got a chance to, compare lap times. My lap times were horrible. But I love that intense focus. And my worst session that you mentioned, my worst session was when I was on the phone and I had some bad news, whatever, and I was in a bad place, but I had to go out for the second session, and I went off the track. I had a bad session. And I remember the guy was like, "Get over here now," and he was telling me stuff I did wrong. I go, "Yeah, I got you." So the third session, I swear to God, the third session, I was like, "Okay, I'm better. I got that whatever it was on the phone. I got that settled." I went back out. Whenever he was like, go to the apex. In my helmet, I was like, yeah, motherfucker, I'm going to the apex. And I was mad at him, but not mad at him, if that makes any sense. But I hit everything. He goes, good job, mate. I go, yeah, I know. But I did it because I knew I was out of my head and I wasn't focused. And if that makes any sense, I wasn't focused during my session. You know what I mean? So that's what the great thing about a track day, it makes you focus on one thing, makes you forget about everything else, and you're just in your zone, and it's the greatest thing in the world. And you mentioned this, and I have to bring it up because it happened. I want to see how you related to it, in that when you were in Brainerd, I know there was a death on the track in one of the classes. One of the guys died. Like, how did you take that? How did you deal with that?
So I really tried to compartmentalize that. Like, yes, I understand. Like, was his name Scott? I think so. That he was there doing what he loved.
Yes.
And and Jeremy and I talked about this because he races too. He likes racing vintage stuff. And he's actually a 2-time national champ in his classes. Yeah. We had talked about it and we were like, okay, so we're about to get married. We both do dangerous stuff. How, like, this guy just died. How do we feel about this? And we both came to the conclusion, like, if we were to die, that's the way we want to go out, not commuting to your job that you hate or falling off a ladder. Like, that would be the way to go out. And yeah, we would both be sad, but we knew that, like, you were doing what you loved. And it was a very sad time. Like, I know Kaylee, she was really close with him, so she was really upset, and I think it put her in a weird mindset. But I was like, okay, if I died out there, I want the show to continue. I want everybody to clear their mind and do what they love. And so I was just like, okay, yes, he died. It was me. This is how I'd want to handle it, and this is how I'd ever want everybody else to handle it. So I just went out there with, like, the show must continue. We got to do what we love. And just rip.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, I've seen it happen on every level, like I remember I had a buddy, somebody died in his class, and I just remember, like, he said for the weekend, like, he didn't race. And I thought that was good, because if your head's not right and doing something like this, anything you do, if your head's not right, you should stop. And, especially when it comes to racing. So yeah, I always want to know, what that's like. But on but that track day we were at, somebody got hurt. I remember I was leaving, the ambulance was there. And then a couple weeks later, I think 2 people died that day. So it's like, it sounds so cliche to say, but it's so true. It's like, you know what? You could die. I could step off this, curb here and slip and hit my head, and that could be all over with. God forbid, if I am clumsy, but God forbid it happens. But, at least you go out doing something you love doing, because you just never know. And you got to get it all in, because you don't know when you're going to get that little hand on the shoulder, and you look up and they go, hey, man, it's time. You go, can I? And they go. And so I always said it to myself, I just want enough time. I hope so. I get enough time to go, okay, I did everything I want to do, and then, fade to black. But that's what I want to do. So, I don't want to make this so morbid, but let's go to something positive. So let's say let's move on to fast forward to this year, last race of the season. And like I said, watching you go for it. I mean, they were hard passes, nothing dirty. They were hard passes. And I was like, is this Chloe? The Chloe I know from the parking lot? And I mean, it was beautiful to watch you do what you did. And I got to give Kaylee a shout out, because, man, she's so just giving. She goes, I wanted her to win the championship. I mean, I'm glad I won, but I wanted her to win. And she was fighting you. But the camaraderie between you ladies, was that what it was like the whole season? Because there didn't seem to be any backstabbing. It seemed to be everybody was wanting the best for everybody else, but yet at the same time, they worked hard to win. Was that what it was like?
I'd say the majority of the season, everything was pretty good. I mean, everybody wanted to be competitive. Was there some, like, little headbutting there, here and there? Of course, any paddock there would be. But it's like, we did our best as a team to smash whatever drama there was, because, I mean, when you have negative feelings and you go out on the track with that's not a good mindset to be in. So we tried to do everything in our power to just make sure there wasn't drama, and try and keep things smooth in the paddock. And I mean, at the beginning of the season, some people had mentioned, I don't know if you saw it, but like, for example, I wasn't too sure if I was going to like Kaylee, but, like, Kaylee was one of my favorite people by the end of the season. But I think it was just that little pain.
Why didn't you think that way why didn't you think you like her? I mean, because yeah, what was it?
I didn't quite get to talk to her too much at Barber at our first training, and I was kind of like, I know she's gonna be my major competition, and I was like I'm a super creep when it comes to like anybody. Like, I'll Google the hell out of them to figure out, like, okay, what are they about, this and that. So I Googled everybody on the team, like, looked at all their race times, listened to any podcasts they were on. And so I was like, I'm getting the dirt, the juice on anybody. And so, like, I knew who my top competitors were going to be this season, and I knew she was going to be the top one. And and I just kind of was reserved and didn't really want to. I was like, I don't know about her. And but then I actually freaking love her, and I had a blast being around her. We were pitted next to each other. She was like before, like, I'm not like a person who's like super serious before I go out to race. I really like to just laugh and have a good time and keep it light and airy. so I don't get in my head too much. And her and I would be cracking jokes and uh, just doing all kinds of shenanigans. And so it was good to be around her. And yeah.
No, I like I said, I love that, and I hit her up going, "Hey, you got any funny stories about Chloe? Because I gotta have her on the show tomorrow." And she just gave the greatest like she built you up. She goes, "Nah, she's great. You're gonna love her. I mean, she's funny." Blah blah. And I was like, "All right." I mean, that's the kind of person she is. That was a DM. I was like, "Hey man, what's she like? Give me a funny story." And she goes, "Nah," and goes, "She's funny enough. You'll see." And I was like, wow. I mean, there was, but what if there was, what little bit of maybe backstabbing that happened that you guys like nipped in the bud real quick?
There really wasn't anything between me and Kaylee. Yeah, there's some other girls on the team where I'm just
like what happened?
I'm not mentioning. I'm not.
No names, but like what situations or what happened? No names, but like what situations happened?
I think it's just social things like when you're a faster person and you're around other people who are faster, it's kind of like that unwritten respect of like, hey, don't ask for tips if you know you're already fast. And yeah, so it's kind of like somebody's just, I'm never one to create like conflict, but like, it's just like, there's too many questions I were asked and I just kind of was like, like, get out of here. And then I felt really bad afterwards, but it was just like don't test the patience. But it's just, and then I talked to her afterwards. I'm like, hey, sorry, I just went off on you, but this is this. And she's like, I get it. And then everything was fine after that. But yeah, it's just like, yeah, I mean, any parent, I don't think just like that would happen to girls, but I think, yeah, it's just, yeah.
Anybody. I mean, when we talk about racing, a lot of racers talk about the red mist. That's what you get when you're a racer, you get mad. Did you ever get the red mist when you're racing? Like maybe like somebody put a move on you, go, oh, really? Or something happened and you had to get it together. Otherwise you would have like went out of your head. Did you ever get the red mist?
So I used to get that at track days and I realized I would ride crappier when I had the red mist. So I always ride smart. Mm-hmm. And I don't try and ride desperate. Like, you definitely want to make sure you're staying grounded and take smart opportunities to pass people. Because, I mean, the only way to win a race or finish a race is by getting over the finish line. So definitely staying smart, humble, and out there learning and trying to like figure out what everybody else is doing, I think is my riding style. I mean, of course, you're always like, I got to catch up. Or like test people. Like I know at Brainerd, like there was some areas where Kaylee was a little bit slower and I'd show her a wheel and just to be like, I'm here. I'm putting the pressure on you. Because sometimes when you show Kaylee a little bit of pressure, she's like, oh no. But she learns really quick too. So it was fun riding with her because she was always that like carrot that would push me, but then I'd push her. And it's when you ride with faster people, that's how you get faster. And
iron sharpens iron. Iron sharpens iron. Yes, it really does. And I thought it was great watching you two go at it, but watching the respect that you guys had. That's what I loved more than anything. It was a respect, and it was watching you like a genuine, just a love, an admiration, but yet still you guys went at it hard, and you can't ask for anything more than that,
right.
Yeah,
so, I was surprised with how friendly we became by the end of the season, but I'm really happy for that. And I hope she goes really far in life with racing and her life in general, because she deserves it. And yeah, so much respect for her.
Now, what about you? Like, what's your like overall goals? Like, do you want to race? I mean, who knows? Maybe you want to race Super Sport in Moto America. I mean, honestly, you've got your name out there. I think you're already in the Moto America paddock. I've talked to Mallory Dobbs, who is awesome. I talked to her. Have you met her in the paddock?
I have not. I actually started following her on Instagram, I think a couple weeks ago. And
she's awesome.
After her, but yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting her one day.
I think you guys would be really good friends. She's great also. I think you guys would like each other. But yeah, where do you want to go like with this? I mean, you're still young, vibrant. You still got a little and you still got a little angsting, I could tell. So yeah, what do you want to do?
So I like to keep dreams attainable. Uh, so like, yeah, I don't want to just be like, yeah, I want to race a MotoGP because I was like, that's not attainable at my age. I'm geriatric at this point for racing. So I think my ultimate goal would be to get into Twins Cup because I think that would be the next logical level to move up to and see whatever I can learn from that. And I know when I'm maybe not able to race at a high level anymore, if Twins Cup happens, maybe eventually run a team one day. Because I really love logistics and organizing things. And it was cool seeing how that worked for the BTR team, watching Bree do that. She's such an inspiration to put all that together. And I mean, putting more girls under 1/10 this year and figuring out the logistics of that was really cool to watch. And that would be my ultimate goal one day, would be run a team.
Oh, good for you. I think that would be perfect for you. I could see you doing that. I know the bikes would look great if they did.
Yeah, designing livery for everybody. If that is how you say that word, livery.
Yeah, livery. Yeah, I'm glad you said it because I don't know either. But yeah, I think it's livery. Livery. Tomato. Tomato. Yeah.
I just want everybody's stuff to look super good. Even if their teams might not be the fastest, I want them to look the best. So
I know they would. But now I was going to ask you earlier, growing up, who are your role models when you were growing up? Like, who'd you look up to? Because I always have, I look at it like this. I mean, for what you're doing, and we touched on this before, but I always say if women had good role models, I think they'd be better in their relationships. They wouldn't rely so much on men and whatever. But I think I think maybe it's gonna be different now with the generation growing up. Now they have, like, honestly, people like you to look up to. Okay, and they won't rely so much on a man's doing this, so I'll do this because I want a boyfriend, whatever. They'll have attainable role models. You know, boys, we had Michael Jordan or this and that. So who was your role model growing up that you kind of like looked up to?
This is gonna sound so cliche, but like, yeah, I think my mom, because she didn't really have a tough childhood growing up, but like she didn't learn a lot of stuff until she learned the hard way. So forever, like when I was a kid, she would like break stuff down for me and like a really like adult stuff down to like be like, okay, well, this might happen in your life. Protect yourself like this. Or like, hey, this is how credit works for your credit card. Like she's like, I screwed this up and I don't want you to go through it. So she taught me everything that she wishes she would have known at an earlier age. So I think it's definitely my mom, and just my family in general are really good, like have super good work ethics. So like my mom, my dad, like my grandpa, like everybody works really hard in my family. So I think it was like all of them instilling like the passion to like find what you love, work hard, you'll get rewarded for that, and just be smart. Common sense, yeah, it's a big thing. So I think it's definitely my mom, my family. So I know that's cliche, but
no, it's not cliche. Because some people, it's sad, but some people, their moms weren't their role models. You know what I mean? And sometimes their mom might have been a role model, but they were bad role models. I mean, you know what I mean? Because I had Mama D Diamond on, and she was saying her mom was terrible. It was horrible, and she couldn't wait to leave. And I don't know how her mom ended up passing away, and not really, coming to grips with that so much. So yeah, I mean, so not everybody's the same. So I think that's beautiful. If you had a great role model, I think that's wonderful. And I think girls will look up to you and you'll be their role model. Not because you're racing. And like I said, you're approachable and you're fun. And that little bit you do makes all the difference in the world. That little kind of autograph, or take a little picture and they'll put it on Instagram and go, oh, and they'll remember that. I mean, that little thing you do, they're going to remember that. So I think it's beautiful. I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Chloe Peterson is beautiful. I know we talked about this. I know you said you may have some questions for me. So before we got out of here, you got any questions for me? Since you wanted to turn the tide on me, so go ahead.
Oh yeah. I just so I always listen to like Joe Rogan's podcast, and like he always talks to different comedians about like how they got their start in it. Mm-hmm. And like I know you said that you do comedy stuff like full time. Like, how did you just decide, you know what, we're gonna like the I think what's fascinating for me is like you might have like a like Harry Potter reference, but like your muggle job and like how do you over break over into like the like okay, you're like I call it quits on that and we're just gonna jump in because that's such a scary jump to
No, a scary jump to me is having a regular job every day, getting up and having to be at work at 8 or 9. And I really think if I did that, then I'd be one of those people you hear about on CNN, like, oh my God, tragedy strikes at the workplace. You know what I mean? My mugshot would be up like this, and I'd be like this. They go, he snapped for no reason. You know what I mean? So yeah, that would be me. I mean, as long as I can remember, it was always comedy, man. It was always wanting to entertain, and I always felt I was a little bit different from everybody growing up. And I liked that, but it was sincere though. It's like, I definitely don't want to stay here in Oklahoma. I wanted to move. And I just love making people laugh, and I love talking to different people. And I was always a little bit different in the sense of like, I always walked that line of like, I grew up in Oklahoma in 70s, 80s, so it's like, there was that line, like immediate east side was all white, immediate west side was all black, but I had friends from all different. And I had, my buddy would come over. I always say this every podcast. He was 8 years old. And he would ride his Suzuki 80 across town and cross a major highway at 8 years old to come ride with me. And nobody thought shit about it. Nobody. Like he would pass cops. He's in third grade. He's passed a cop to come ride with me on the road on the 80. His parents didn't care. My parents like, hey, Mark, it's getting late. You might want to go back home. Yeah, okay, Mr. Terrell. And he would go back home. Never thought like he's got to cross this major highway. Nobody thought shit about it. So I grew up that way, and I just love talking to different people from different walks of life. And it's like I take that every person I talk to, I take that. From this, I take the fact that I love how it's similar to the way I think, and I'm glad you said it, how you were a chubby chaser and how you make a spreadsheet and you take different things from every aspect of a relationship. And that's beautiful. And honestly, I take that from this conversation, because everybody, no matter who they are, you could take a little bit of something and go, huh. So I listen to everything, I hear everything, and I listen to everything. And whether I apply it or not, that's different. But I just love that. But I love, and this sounds so cheesy, but I'm a cheesy dude. I just like to see people happy. I really do. I like to see people happy. I like to see people laugh. You know what I mean? And that to me is the most important thing in life. And it sounds so cheesy, but man, if somebody, when they leave and they go, you know what? I needed that laugh. And I could tell that's not even coming from just, saying shit. They go, I needed that laugh. And I go, okay. And I'll just leave it at that because I know something else is there and I want to get into it. But yeah, that's why. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to grill me on and be the white Oprah here and talk to me about? Anything else you want to grill me on?
Okay, it sounds like you started riding pretty young. So and you go to all these track days. Like, how did you get your start into like doing track stuff? Or
it's just I started when I was like third grade. And I got a motorcycle for my birthday. My dad was cool, gave me a little mini bike. And growing up in Oklahoma, I literally had I had a church parking lot that I rode in, and then there was another field a block away, and then next door we literally had natural whoops in the ground, and so I would act like I was on motocross, and I would do the whoops. And so I had all these places to ride, and then I got older. My parents split up, so I didn't get a chance to get the 125 that I wanted. So I didn't ride again until 2006. And I'm a Gemini. That's why it tells from Gemini. I'm a Gemini, so when I like something, and I'm like this with it. And motorcycling and comedy are the only things that I didn't go, okay, that was fun, now I'm done. Like I played hockey a little bit when I was in California, and when I came here to Indianapolis, I didn't pick up a stick again. And that faded to, I had a good time, but I pushed it aside like broccoli. And then when but motorcycles have always been like, my riding is gradually like, it went from, sport bike to now I got to, I go cross country. I love cross country rides now. I love, traveling on a motorcycle. I think that's great. And I love the track days and just, I want to get a knee down. It's bugging me to the point. It's almost like it's messing with my psyche. So I want to get a knee down, and I want to race you and beat you, but I want to get a knee down definitely. So yeah, that's it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, getting a knee down doesn't necessarily mean you're fast. Just
I know it doesn't, but I still want to beat you though. I want us to pick a track. I want you to pick a track, and we're gonna do it. And then I want to get a knee down, and I want to beat you, and I want to be like nah, and then I don't know.
Right. That's fine. You want me to go on my RC390 and then you'll get on the S1000R and like, that'd be fun. I think that'd be fun.
You ain't gotta be like that. You ain't gotta be like that. That was I felt a little. That was kind of dirty right there. What you just did. You ain't gotta be like that. I mean, you're better than me, but you ain't gotta be like that. You're big. You're bigger than that, Chloe. You're bigger than that, Chloe. You're bigger than that as a person, Chloe. God damn it, Chloe.
I go on an R6 and then you go on the S1000R.
Be nice. Be nice.
There's logical ways you could beat me.
Before we get out of here, and before you hurt my feelings again, when's the big wedding day? When's the big date? The wedding day?
February 25th. You can't interrupt race season, so we're having it in the winter.
God, that's why you're a keeper. You can't interrupt race season. That's my kind of woman right there. He's got the right one. I love her fiance. Never met him, but I know I would love the guy. Honestly, you guys are made for each other. You're beautiful. I love what you guys are doing. And shout out to Royal Enfield and shout out to Bree. What Bree Poland has done, what Royal Enfield has done, honestly, it's great. It's great for women. I think it's great for the women, especially the time is now. And what they're doing can't be understated. It's great, empowering women. And your role models, whether you believe it or not, your role models and what you guys are doing is beautiful. Chloe Peterson, thank you so much for your time. I mean it from the bottom of my heart. I hope your first podcast was fun.
Oh, it was a blast. I'm going to need a wheelchair now, you know.
I know. Your first time was with a black guy. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. It's a BBP, the Big Black Podcast.
Yeah, change the name, though.
I better stop this right now for you get in trouble and there'll be no February 25th for you. You know, your boyfriend be like, what? So anyway, thank you so much for anything else you want to say? Anybody you want to plug before we get out of here?
Bree, thank you so much. You've changed my life and I am so grateful for you because I'm going to be on the up and up from here and I can't thank you enough. I can't give you enough money. I can't give you enough gifts. You did so much for me. So I appreciate you, Bree.
And I appreciate you, Chloe. Honestly, I appreciate you for being on this podcast. I really mean this from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. Thank you, Kaylee B, for your little, the DM about you. Yeah, I appreciate that. And everybody for watching Tales from a Gemini. Thank you so much, Chloe Peterson. Good luck next season. Good luck in your marriage. Happy, I don't know what you say, happy marriage, I guess, whatever. Happy that. And thanks for everybody for watching. And like I said about this time, you know the word. Peace.